I'm Brent Campbell, and perhaps you've seen a few of my videos in the past where I go on and on about how much I love my E46 BMW M3 and my E60 BMW M5. I did a video shoot this morning with my neighbor and fellow car enthusiast Jordan Copeland. He's had quite a few cars over the years. And currently he drives a Mk7 Volkswagen GTI, which by all accounts is a seriously cool car. At the same time, it's an affordable sports car, and it's astonishing to me what you can get for very little money. The theme that we decided upon together was that we would compare these two budget sports cars. If you get a car that's a little bit older, like an E46 M3, and this car, it's 2016, it's a 2004 model, that means it's 12 years old. You can get one of these for very little money. A cream puff, total cream puff E46 M3 can be had for $15,000. Or you can get a newer car that isn't quite as fancy, doesn't have the same heritage, it doesn't say BMW on it, for 25 grand. And which is better? Which is better to live with? Which is, a better drive? I mean, after all, this car is 12 years old. It has 90,000 miles on it. So, these are good questions to ask because, all of us car enthusiasts face this challenge of, what can I get for my money? What makes sense for me to actually live with on a day-to-day basis? And it was really interesting to hear his thoughts on this. So it was interesting to go out with him, to have him drive me in his GTI, to get to drive the GTI with him. A 2-liter, 4-cylinder, turbocharged 210 horsepower engine, front-wheel drive, as opposed to this, cultivated inline straight 6. Red lines all the way to 7,900 RPM. So it's German. It's German, which makes it great because all German cars are great. And this is sort of a beloved, people's car. Like the hatchback. In the same way that the E30 M3 sort of, was this legendary car, sort of kicked off a revolution or whatever in the way that people drove cars. The GTI, I remember when it came out in like 83, 84.
Yeah, I remember that,
yeah. It's this little 90 horsepower thing, but it was a ton of fun, and you could throw it around. And before that time, cars weren't fun. You had sports cars, or you had luxury cars, but you didn't really have anything that sort of brought the two together. You certainly couldn't have a practical sports car. And I guess that's what the original GTI was all about, right?
I guess so, yeah. That's my understanding.
Yeah.
The thing with this car, what I think is interesting, is that there's sort of this joke, or it's not even much of a joke, about car magazines, that they love the cars, and then when the next model comes out, they tell you all the things that were wrong with the previous model that you never heard about before. Which I think was definitely the case for GTIs. For the first one was impressive, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, a lot of them were flawed in some way, and I feel like this one is not.
Yeah.
This is the one that actually it is what it professes to be, which is a very comfortable, practical, fun car.
Yeah.
It's for me, a lot of what car you choose is just about being honest with yourself.
Yeah. About
what your needs actually are.
Yeah.
And so my needs were to be relatively cheap, seat 5, 4 doors, hatchback if I can get it, stick shift, and cloth seats.
Yeah.
So the cloth seats is kind of the odd one, but I just like that better.
Interesting. Well, you got the plaid, which is sort of what GTIs are famous for having, and it's a distinctive characteristic.
Yeah, this is the base model, so no sunroof. Everything above the S. This is the S. Everything above the S is leather seats.
Okay.
Which I don't like.
Okay.
And again, it's about being honest. If you routinely have children drinking chocolate milk in your car, yeah, you probably need leather seats or leatherette or whatever. But if you don't let people eat in your car and you like this better, then for me,
well, that's if you're into the whole GTI thing, which are you?
I'm not like a fanboy like that.
Okay.
So my last few cars, the last car I had was a 2013 WRX, which I loved. I loved the response I got. Every time I filled up with gas, it was the Subaru, that blue color.
Yeah, it was gorgeous.
Every time I got gas, if there was an attendant, they always asked me about it. Subaru drivers waved to each other. Which you kind of realize if you saw another WRX driver, you would wave to them. Yeah. Which was also an experience I had in my Miata, which was a few before that. But the WRX was great. Great in winter, very practical, but it was kind of agricultural. Unrefined.
Okay. Yeah.
Kind of tractory. And I'm not just talking about the boxer engine. It was a 5-speed, so highway driving.
I hear the same thing about the Evo.
Yeah.
It's a basic car, and then they do a few things to make it special, but still it's a basic car and it's not very well put together. But the GTI, on the other hand, you have the Volkswagen, Golf base, which is a very well refined car.
Yeah, I mean, look, we
just made it a little bit better with the GTI.
We had a 2003 Passat at one point, which really burned us. This car, I mean, it's certainly compared to the Subaru, no creaks, no rattles. It really feels well engineered, very solid.
Yeah, it's definitely tight.
And the car before the Subaru was I had an E92 335i, the BMW, which was a really great car, and I'm really interested to see how the M3. I know you have a previous generation M3, but the cop in front of us. I'm eager to see it because it felt more like a grand touring car. It felt heavier, to me, and it was like a freight train, but it wasn't fun. Which, again, being realistic about what it is that you want out of a car.
Yeah. Was it a stick?
Well, I'm sorry?
The 335i, was it a stick?
Yes. Yeah,
and
stick
it
shift.
Fun.
It was just heavier. I mean, I'm not saying it wasn't fun. It was fun. And, but it was for what? It was a highway cruising car.
Yeah.
My dad has a Mini, and around town, you just can't beat it.
Yeah.
It's got this little turbo, it spools up really fast, it's a lot of fun. And I mean, that's really what it's, and a lot of people sort of confuse numbers, acceleration, horsepower, for fun.
Right.
Which there is a correlation between the two, but it's not a direct one-to-one, sort of thing. So it wasn't, I mean, I had it for 5 years. It was great. But, I like this car. To me, splits the difference between the WRX and the BMW. It has kind of the substantialness of not all of it, of the BMW, and more of the fun, light feeling of the WRX.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. Now, in terms of power, okay, so I guess all three of these cars were turbocharged.
Yes.
So that's big.
Yep. Yeah.
How do you feel about the turbo?
Turbo's fine. This thing doesn't. The WRX had a fair bit of lag to it.
Yeah.
Not too much. Well, maybe a little too much, but not. It wasn't awful. The BMW was great at twin turbo, so it had one for the lower RPMs, one for higher, so it was seamless. You wouldn't even know it was turbocharged to drive it.
So it's just a question of what your personal preference is.
Right, and what your needs actually are. I mean, yes. I need to be able to commute with it. I need to be able to get to work with it in all sorts of weather. I'm not waking up Saturday mornings and driving far away to go on curvy roads. That's just not what I'm doing. So I want to make my everyday commute a little bit more fun and enjoyable, but I don't want to be pounded like I was in my Miata, which was modified, you know, tremendously modified. Anyway, why don't we switch? And,
all right, cool. So you started with rear-wheel drive, then you went all-wheel drive, and then now you're front. Nice and smooth.
Although before that, I had Acura TSX. I had a Miata was rear-wheel drive. That was also fun. I mean, that was I aftermarket turbocharged it. Not bad.
Yeah, well, it's very different from what I'm used to. Not that I should be hopping in the driver's seat and driving like a fool.
Yeah. I don't care about the car, just about my life.
What's that?
No, I just want to hit a pole or something.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Well, it's a different feel, and I don't know why it is better, but it's certainly got my heart up a little bit.
Well, it's tight, and it's, you know, for me, fun is basically synonymous with responsiveness. It does what you want it to do.
Right.
So if you, like, again, the BMW would turn in grip prodigiously, but it wasn't like turning in now.
Yeah.
This has kind of faster steering than that car did.
Yeah. Well, I guess what I noticed is that it's almost like it adjusted before I put in the steering input. So the one thing you'll notice about the M3 is that the turn-in is just magical.
Wow, I gotta try that.
It's and the M5 doesn't do that. Yeah, the steering is the best attribute of that car, I think. As much as the engine is great, and you know that's what it's famous for, I suppose. But yeah, this is cool. I mean, like you were saying, I guess before we were on camera, you have to live with this car. You need to have something that you can drive every day through the snow and the ice and everything else, and this enables you to do it.
You know, I would say the Miata was a good learning experience for me in that I got it, I modified it, I had plans to autocross it, I had plans to track it, and I just had too much going on, and I never did.
Really?
So I wound up with a car that looked awesome, was crazy for the street, and had maybe a little more compromise than I needed.
Yeah.
So it was nice, got attention, it was really fun, but I mean, it was really kind of a, you know, more of a track car than a street car.
Yeah.
And I just found, you know, every weekend it was like, I just don't have the time, I don't have the time. I got kind of inspired after having gone up to Skip Barber one time. Yeah.
I do like the way this thing pulls.
This all feels like my 335i.
Yeah. Well, you're just going to laugh at the tech on this, right? I mean, this is like a joke.
God, it's like a Game Boy.
Anyway, they say that this is, and this is his argument, is that this is sort of the last of the analog BMWs before everything got a little bit, you know, it got all techie.
So far I'm definitely noticing heavier steering.
Yeah.
Which, obviously it's a personal preference thing.
Yeah.
For me, it's what grew tiresome about my 335, because I work all day. Oops, I need to shift down.
No, it does it on its own.
Work all day, on my feet all day long, and like at the end of the day, it just became like a little much to saw it back and forth.
Yeah.
You know, so in a perfect world, you should be able to dial in the amount on your own.
Why one would want to have this car versus, you know, something that's newer is that it's analog. It's all about the driving experience. It's got, you know, this great engine. It's got the great you know, steering. The brakes are the one limitation on this car. And it could be, you know, after driving around in the M5, which has some of the greatest brakes I've ever used, you know, to come to this, and it's sort of underwhelming. And it's not like I've ever whacked for stopping power, but it's just got nothing on the M5. It's nice. Yeah. Yeah, the sound of this engine is just...
Yeah, it's great. It's a great motor.
Yeah, it's you know, it's my first experience with BMW. I had a friend in high school who had, I don't even know what number it was. It was before the E28, whatever that is. It was a 528i. It's a 1980 model. And the way that car sounded at idle, it was loud, and it had, as I've come to appreciate subsequently, is distinctive straight six sound. And this car sounds just like it did. And I love that. Because it's, you know, just as you have the plaid seats in your GTI,
right,
there's a distinctive sound about this engine. So I would want to be in third gear coming through here.
Steering is great.
Yeah.
Really great.
The turn in.
Really great.
It feels
good.
exactly what you want it to do.
At this speed, pushing it a little bit more, it feels much, much better.
Yeah. But just at the low speeds, it's not so pleasant to deal with. Yeah, interestingly, I never feel like I'm going to lose control in this car. It's, even on the track, I never ever had to worry about anything on the track, because it was just, I guess in a way that you don't worry about reliability on a Honda. Driving this car on the track, it was just the most stable car there. I mean, granted, the E46 M3 was the most popular car on the track. I guess it was in its element, and I never had to worry. It was always compliant. It was always going where I pointed it.
The way I feel about this car is that if you're doing something, it feels great if you're doing something deliberate. If you're trying to do something, it's really, really responsive and really, really nice. I like that a lot. It's not you know, just cruising, whatever. But when you, and I think this is going to come down to where the SMG is. It feels, again, if you're going to go back to that, fun is kind of, you know, the responsiveness of something is how much fun it's going to be. Yeah, steering is extremely responsive. The engine is extremely responsive. It's not a monster, but it's got power everywhere.
Yeah.
So when you say, I want to go, it goes.
Yep.
And that's really what makes it, you know, fun. The SMG, I get where the complaints are, and I think it has to do with the responsiveness, because you feel a little bit rubber banded, a little jiggled around, or it doesn't shift exactly when you wanted it to.
Yeah.
That said, though, some people drive just straight up automatic transmissions, and then you're completely out of the loop.
Right. I think also you just have to get used to it.
Yeah.
You know, once you know how the transmission works, you can adapt your driving style around it, and I guess most people don't want to do that. But
I like
okay.
this. I like it a lot, actually.
Good. You know, you don't have the sport button on.
I do or don't.
Do you want to have it on? Basically,
what will it do?
It makes the throttle a lot more sensitive to your.
Oh, definitely then.
Okay. So there you go.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So did it have a drive-by-wire or something or other?
So I posted a video about this and somebody corrected me on it. I think it's a drive-by-wire throttle. I have to look at it, but basically it doesn't give you any more power. It just it sort of adjusts the software on the throttle, and it just makes it so that it's extra responsive. And that's great when you're at speed, but when you're at a stoplight and you're starting out in first gear and you give it just a little bit more, like it punishes you. So it's sort of like driving a stick when you're having a hard time getting.
Go one
yeah, go for it.
Gear too many shits. You did one gear too many.
Yeah, but that's also the sport button.
Oh, okay.
It makes it really jumpy.
What's really nice about it, is that there is a feeling of connectedness, of analogness, which is really nice. It feels like a purpose-built car.
Yeah.
That it's looking to do something and does it. And it kind of makes you want to go. You know, would I, if this had to be my only car and I had to get to work in it, it might get tiring.
Yeah.
But it, you know, it depends what your commute is.
Right. Giggle a lot when I drive this car.
Yeah, right. It's really good.
Yeah.
It's a good car.
Okay, so we spent...
Are those lights on?
Yeah, those are slick. So we spent a good hour driving these two cars. He brought up some great points about the practicality of a sports car. M3 in 1987 kicked off the sports car craze where you could have a compact sporting sedan, 2-door or 4-door. The Mark I VW GTI was originally the Rabbit, and like 1983, 1984 sort of made it possible for a small car to handle really well and to be exciting to drive. And the GTI today and the Mk7 continues that tradition, and it's a beautiful thing, and I think it's great. Just hang on for dear life, folks. So you can have a car like this for $15,000. It's just insane. We live in a glorious time. Jordan's key point was that with a GTI, you can have a practical car. And he can have a sports car that he can live with on a daily basis. It has 4 doors, it has a manual transmission, it is sporting in nature, it's a ton of fun to drive, and you can have fun driving it legally. I can kind of have fun driving this car legally. My M5, I absolutely cannot drive it legally and truly tap the performance potential in it. And that's one of the key frustrations that I have driving it. Meanwhile, I still have to live with the poor fuel economy, I guess the extremes about the way the car is set up. I mean, it's designed to do one thing extremely well. Well, day to day, you're not going as fast as possible all the time. So having a GTI really does make more sense than having an M3 or an M5. This car is so confidence inspiring. I never worry that I'm gonna get into trouble in it. It just grips and grips and grips, and it never runs out. As I was saying to Jordan in the commentary earlier, I regularly giggle while driving in this car. It just makes me smile. So, but that's the thing though, is it's built to go fast. That's what it does. I call the M5 the ultimate family hauler, and it kind of is, but it's not really designed to appeal to the needs of a family. It functions well because it has 4 doors and room for everybody, and it's a comfortable car, but it's a sports car. It's supposed to go fast. That's what it's built for. And if that's what your priority is, which in my case it is, then great. But that's not what everybody's looking for in a car.